Ladies and gentlemen, we are not the sum of our intentions, we are the sum of our habits. What we do consistently, not occasionally, shapes the trajectory of our lives. The small choices, repeated daily, determine whether we rise or remain stuck. But behind every habit, good or bad, there is a science, a powerful interplay between our brain, body, and behavior. Today, we'll explore how to master that science to break the habits that hold us back and build the ones that elevate us forward. Every single habit you hold, whether beneficial or destructive, has been carved into the architecture of your brain through repetition. The human brain is not a fixed machine. It is dynamic, flexible, and capable of change at any age. This powerful capability is called neuroplasticity. It means that your brain literally rewires itself based on what you consistently do, think, and feel. When a behavior is repeated, the neurons associated with that action fire together. As the old saying goes, neurons that fire together wire together. Over time, this forms a neural pathway that becomes stronger and more automatic. It's how brushing your teeth became second nature. You don't even have to think about it anymore. You just do it. That's the power of repeated action on the structure of your mind. Now, when we want to form a new habit, the first step is to understand that the brain needs consistency to build new pathways. But not just mindless repetition, conscious, focused repetition. When you perform an action while being mentally present and emotionally invested, your brain records that activity much more deeply. You are essentially signaling to your nervous system, "This matters, encode this." So if you want to build a habit like exercising, meditating, or journaling, you need to not only do it regularly, but do it with awareness and intention. Over time, that effort becomes embedded in your neural circuits, making the behavior automatic. The timing of when you practice a habit also matters. Science shows that morning and evening are the most effective windows for habit formation because your brain is in a more neurochemically receptive state. In the morning, you have heightened focus and energy. In the evening, your mind is more reflective. Both states are optimal for encoding new routines, so aligning your new behaviors with these times enhances the likelihood that they'll stick. Breaking a habit uses the same science, but in reverse. You cannot erase a neural pathway easily, but you can weaken it by not using it. If you stop reinforcing a habit, stop performing the routine, and interrupt the cue that triggers it, the pathway begins to decay over time. But even more powerful is replacing the unwanted behavior with a healthier one. When you feel the urge to check your phone and instead go for a short walk or breathe deeply, you're creating a new pathway that competes with the old one. Eventually, with enough repetition, the brain will favor the new over the old. This isn't just psychology, it's biology. It's how your brain is built to evolve. The process of building or breaking habits isn't about willpower alone. It's about working with the brain's natural systems. Neuroplasticity is your ally in this process, and when you commit to understanding how it works, you no longer feel trapped by old patterns. Instead, you feel empowered to create new ones, because transformation doesn't come from one big chain. It comes from small, consistent steps that, over time, reshape who you are. Dopamine is often misunderstood. People think it's just a chemical released when you receive a reward. But science shows that dopamine is actually more powerful during the anticipation of progress than in the achievement itself. This means your brain doesn't just get excited when you succeed. It gets energized when it senses that you're moving forward. And that's a game changer when it comes to habits, because most people wait for motivation to arrive before taking action. But in reality, action is what triggers motivation. When you begin to see small results, your brain releases dopamine, and that dopamine makes you want to keep going. This creates a feedback loop. Small win, dopamine hit, more energy, more action, more progress. The loop reinforces itself. That's why breaking down your goals into smaller, trackable habits is so important. If you try to only chase the big win, like losing 20 pounds or writing a book, you'll burn out. Why? Because your brain isn't getting enough of that good reinforcement along the way. But if you track each workout, each chapter, each clean meal, you give your brain those little boosts of dopamine that keep you in motion. Here's the science behind it. Your brain's reward system is activated by novelty, progress, and purpose. So when you acknowledge even the smallest bit of growth, writing for 10 minutes, saying no to junk food once, getting out of bed early one more day, you signal progress. That signal activates the dopamine system and builds momentum. You start to crave that feeling, and when your brain craves progress, the habit becomes easier to repeat. You're not fighting against resistance anymore. You're pulled forward by your own biology. To truly master this process, you need to intentionally celebrate the wins. Not in a fake or forced way, but by taking a moment to reflect on the fact that you showed up. Say it to yourself, that mattered. It sounds simple, but it creates a neurochemical imprint. You begin to associate the habit with a positive internal state, and when a behavior feels good, your brain wants to repeat it. The mistake many people make is waiting until they feel like it. But if you rely on how you feel in the moment, you'll never build consistency. You need to train your brain to love the process. Let the system guide your behavior, not your mood. That's what high performers do, whether they're athletes, artists, or entrepreneurs. They don't always feel motivated, but they've built systems that generate motivation. So, instead of chasing outcomes, chase progress. Instead of looking for motivation, create it. Stack small wins. Feel the rise of energy they bring. Let dopamine become your internal fuel. And most importantly, trust that each step forward is not just movement. It's transformation happening in real time. Every habit, whether it's as simple as making coffee in the morning or as destructive as biting your nails under stress, is formed through a neurological loop in the brain. This loop consists of 3 core elements: a cue, a routine, and a reward. Understanding this loop is the foundation of mastering both the creation and destruction of habits. It's not magic, it's mechanism. Once you understand how this loop operates, you stop seeing habits as mysterious forces and start seeing them as patterns you can reprogram. Let's break it down. The cue is the trigger. It's what tells your brain to initiate the behavior. This could be a time of day, an emotional state, a specific location, or even the presence of another person. It sets the habit in motion. The routine is the actual behavior, what you do. This is the part most people focus on, but it's only one part of the loop. The final part is the reward the benefit your brain gets from completing the routine. This could be physical pleasure, a sense of accomplishment, or even just relief from boredom. And here's the key. Over time, your brain starts to anticipate the reward as soon as the cue appears, creating a craving that drives the behavior automatically. If you want to build a new habit, you need to insert yourself into this loop on purpose. Start by choosing a clear, consistent cue. Make it obvious. For example, if you want to start journaling, tie it to something you already do every day, like brushing your teeth or making your bed. That existing action becomes your new cue. Then define a routine that's easy to do. Don't aim for perfection, aim for consistency. Write one sentence if you must. Finally, make the reward immediate and satisfying. It doesn't need to be big, even something as simple as checking off a box on a tracker or saying, "I did it." Out loud can signal success to the brain. When it comes to breaking a habit, the key is not just to stop the routine, but to interrupt the loop entirely. You can either remove or avoid the cue, like putting your phone in another room if it tempts you to scroll endlessly, or you can replace the routine with a better one that gives you a similar reward. If you bite your nails when anxious, try clenching your fists or doing deep breathing instead. If the reward still satisfies the craving, your brain will start to prefer the new loop. The truth is, you don't need more willpower, you need more awareness. Habits aren't destiny. They're decisions that became default, and just as they were built, they can be unbuilt and rebuilt. By mastering the habit loop, you gain the power to reshape your behavior, shift your identity, and ultimately redesign your life. One of the most overlooked forces shaping your habits is the environment around you. Human behavior tends to follow the path of least resistance, which means we often do what's easiest, not what's best. That's not a character flaw. It's how the brain conserves energy. Every decision you make, every action you take, is influenced by what's around you. The layout of your room, the apps on your phone, the food in your kitchen, the people in your circle. Your environment can either support your habits or sabotage them. So instead of relying on willpower, which is limited and often unreliable, the smart strategy is to design your environment to make good habits easy and bad habits hard. Let's say you want to read more and scroll less. If your phone is on your nightstand and your book is in a drawer, guess what you'll reach for first? Not because you're lazy, but because one requires more effort than the other, the brain defaults to what's frictionless. But if you flip that, put the phone across the room and the book on your pillow, you've just changed the odds. You've added friction to the bad habit and removed it from the good one. That's the essence of environmental design, making the right behavior the easy behavior. This applies to every area of life. If you want to eat healthier, don't just try to be strong. Remove junk food from your house entirely. Stock your fridge with what aligns with your goals. Want to exercise more? Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Make them the first thing you see when you wake up. Want to be more focused? Turn off notifications, silence your phone, block distracting websites. You're not weak for being tempted. The environment is designed to hijack your focus. But when you take control of that design, you take control of your habits. Even your social environment matters. We become like the people we spend the most time with. If your friends are growth-minded, disciplined, and motivated, you will unconsciously start adopting those traits. If they're negative, unfocused, and stagnant, it will drain your momentum. Sometimes the biggest habit shift you can make is choosing who you let influence your mind. The beauty of environmental design is that once it's in place, it works for you without extra effort. You don't need to decide whether to resist a cookie if there isn't one in the house. You don't have to try harder to focus when distractions aren't there. The decision is already made by the environment you've built. At the core, shaping your surroundings is about respecting your future self. It's about recognizing that your willpower may not always be strong, but your setup can be. And when you master your environment, you remove decision fatigue, reduce temptation, and turn discipline into default. You begin to flow toward the life you want, not fight against the current every day. That's not just smart. That's powerful. The most powerful and lasting habits don't come from external pressure. They come from internal identity. It's not enough to just decide what you want to do. You have to decide who you want to become. That's where identity-based habits come in. This approach doesn't start with goals. It starts with self-image. When you build a habit from the inside out, anchored in your belief about who you are, it becomes not just something you do, but part of your identity. And once something is part of your identity, it becomes automatic. Let's break this down. Most people approach change by saying, I want to run 3 times a week, or I want to quit smoking. But this is goal-based thinking. It's focused on the outcome. A deeper and more effective shift happens when you instead say, I am a runner, or I am a healthy person. Why? Because when your behavior aligns with your identity, you don't have to fight yourself to stay consistent. You act in alignment with who you believe you are. The habit becomes natural because it's a reflection of your self-image. The process of building identity-based habits starts with asking yourself a very powerful question: who do I want to become? And not, what do I want to achieve? But who is the type of person I want to be in the world? Do you want to be someone who is disciplined, someone who is resilient, someone who follows through? Once you've defined that identity, every small action becomes a vote for that person. When you write one paragraph, you're a writer. When you do one push-up, you're an athlete. When you say no to one distraction, you're someone with self-control. And the best part, these identity shifts build on themselves. Every time you follow through on a small behavior, you reinforce the belief, this is who I am. Over time, the need for motivation fades because your brain stops seeing the habit as something optional. It becomes expected. It becomes who you are. Now, the same principle applies in reverse. If you carry an identity like I'm just not consistent, or I always give up, your brain will subconsciously look for evidence to confirm it. You'll act in ways that reinforce the story you tell yourself. That's why changing your habits also requires changing your narrative. You must speak to yourself as the person you are becoming, not the person you've been. Identity-based habits are powerful because they reach the root. You're not fixing symptoms, you're transforming your system. You're no longer chasing discipline. You're becoming disciplined. That's not about pressure. It's about permission. You are allowed to become someone new. You are allowed to evolve. And the fastest way to do that is by aligning your daily habits with the identity of the person you truly want to be. The shift isn't just in action. It's in identity. And once you shift who you believe you are, the rest of your habits will follow. The emotional state you're in when you perform a habit plays a crucial role in how strongly that habit is encoded into your brain. Your nervous system is always recording, always picking up on how you feel, what you're focusing on, and what's happening around you. If you're stressed, anxious, or distracted, your brain goes into survival mode. It prioritizes short-term coping over long-term growth. And when a behavior is done repeatedly in those heightened emotional states like stress, eating, doom, scrolling, or procrastinating, it becomes hardwired. Why? Because your brain learns this is how we survive discomfort. Even if that behavior is destructive, the emotional intensity makes the habit stick faster and deeper. But here's the opportunity. The same mechanism that locks in negative patterns can be used to lock in powerful ones if you take control of your state. Calm, focused, and alert states are ideal for learning and habit formation. When you're emotionally balanced, the brain becomes more plastic, more open to forming new pathways. That means you don't just need a new routine, you need a new internal environment while doing it. If you try to start a habit from a frantic or restless place, it won't feel sustainable. But if you start it from a grounded place, your system absorbs it more naturally. That's why regulating your emotional state is a key part of building better habits. Before you try to change your behavior, pause and change your state. Use your breath, inhale deeply, exhale slowly. Walk outside, stretch, do something that brings you into the present moment. Even 1 minute of intentional breathing can shift your nervous system from fight or flight to focus and learn. When your body feels safe and alert, your mind becomes receptive. That's when you can build habits that last. This is also why mindfulness is so effective. When you become aware of what you're feeling and doing in the moment, you stop reacting out of habit and start choosing with intention. You interrupt the autopilot, and every time you bring intention to action, you increase the chance that it becomes a lasting part of you. You're not just stacking behaviors, you're stacking states of consciousness. The other key is emotional reward. If a new habit makes you feel proud, strong, or calm, your brain associates it with a positive emotion. That emotional tag acts like a marker. It tells your brain, keep this, do it again. So when you finish the habit, whether it's journaling, training, or waking up early, take just a second to feel the emotional reward. Say to yourself, this feels good, this is who I am now. That feeling matters more than you think. It's what imprints the habit deeper into your system. So remember, it's not just what you do, it's the energy you do it with. Emotional states are the soil in which habits grow. If the soil is toxic, even the best seeds won't take root. But if the soil is fertile, if your state is calm, focused, and aligned, then even small habits can grow into lasting transformation. You're not just building routines, you're building a new emotional foundation for your life.